Hey folks, Dr. Mike here for the Making Progress channel. It is video number 11, the imminent arrival of super intelligent AI in the Preparing for the Future series. Oh geez, some really intense predictions coming up. Stay tuned. So the outline today is we are going to ask and answer what GPTs are, what is their ability trajectory, that is, how much better are they getting over time. We're going to talk about the interesting, I was going to say paradox, that's not really a good way to phrase it, the interesting juxtaposition of a growing machine intelligence coupled with a stagnant human intelligence. Then I'm going to introduce something I think is already happening, but will for sure in a big way be a big thing, the subscription genius model, and asking you how you can prepare for this yourself. So here we go. GPTs are generative, pre-trained transformers. They are a type of large language model, and they essentially use associations, statistical associations between words, to predict the next words in an upcoming sentence. The next upcoming words in a sentence. So if you say something like, my mother got really mad and threw the pan at. There are just a couple candidate words that have higher probabilities than random words. Me, very high probability. My could be another one because it's my sister, my brother, my dog, my aunt, my dad. Someone's name, Janice. Ethel. Mom gets crazy and gets into fights and throws the pan at people. But if you have a really powerful AI neural network, parse enough text data, basically if you feed it enough text data, it reads enough of the internet. And I don't know if you've seen the internet lately, if you've perused the web, surfed the web, but there's a lot of text data. People have written about almost everything on the internet, and a lot of it, and with redundancies too. It turns out that it can start to link words statistically. It can start to take words and cluster them statistically into descriptions of concepts. And it can cluster concepts into descriptions of concepts that have multiple components. For example, in how many words has a car tire been described? Oh my God, there's maybe like billions of things, trillions of things written about car tires. And if you read, as OpenAI recently claimed, a significant fraction of the internet is what GPT-4 was trained on, the amount of information to have words for how to describe a car tire is enormous. And the way those words are used to describe the car tire starts to intimate to a hierarchical learning system, which is what this is, the meaning behind those words. Because meanings behind words are, their first level of meaning is only associative. If you go to an indigenous culture, let's say they speak Russian. You guys don't know Russian. Maybe you do. There's a Russian movie my dad made me watch. It was terrible. Was it called Akhlamon? Akhlamon, that was like the name of some dog. It was awful. It had its perks. It was terrible. Let's say you go to this indigenous culture and someone points to a dog and you're like, and they're like, Akhlamon, Akhlamon. And you're like, point to a dog, Akhlamon. And you go, you point to a cat and you're like, Akhlamon. They're like, okay. You point to another dog, and they're like, Akhlamon, Akhlamon. They're like, oh, Akhlamon, dog. They're like, dog. That's it. You're translating now. Because all you did was associate this thing with this word. For a GPT, a large language model, at first it just compares statistics. But you give it enough of a data set, and all of the words for dog start to be used in similar places, statistically interchangeably. Dog, mutt, wolfie. Scott the video guy, what else we got for dog? Spot as a dog's name. totally, then it ends up building an awareness around this concept of a dog. There's all these words associated with it. And it builds this concept of dog just statistically through with another concept of cat and another concept of home. How much has been written about dogs and cats living in homes? Oh my God. So what ends up happening is this machine intelligence, because it reads essentially not almost everything, but a huge fraction of everything that's ever been written, it auto-translates this. By the way, it can auto-translate anything. There are large language models now trying to decode whale language, and they're probably going to succeed because all languages at their fundamental core are associative things. Something associates with this. Cat and dog have some sort of relationship. Dog, as far as the word itself, as far as other words, dog leash, dog food, dog owner. And of course, there's also image stuff. We won't even get to that today. But what ends up happening is the model builds hierarchical relationships and starts to really demonstrate true understanding of what it's examining as far as text. Because after it trains for a long time on a ton of text, and it has a new piece of text data introduced to it, you say, my name is Mike and I'm a happy person. What do you think about that? Chat GPT, send. It knows my name is going to be followed up by a name. Mike, it for sure knows that's a normal human name. And I'm blah, blah, blah. It knows all of those concepts, and it knows those concept meanings for all those words and how they interlink because it's been trained on so much data. Remember, as a human being can pick up and build their language because we have essentially a genetically not pre-trained, genetically pre-sensitized neural net that's designed to do language. Humans grow a language. It takes them a few years and they grow one totally fine. And they understand. A machine can grow one way faster, and they've been developing these things for a while. I'll tell you that in a bit. But essentially, what ends up happening is this machine starts to build statistical categories, which really are concepts. They really, really are. And it starts to integrate all of them to where it has multiple hierarchical levels of like, okay, I know what a dog is, I know what a cat is. Now I know what house pets are. Now I know what animals are and how they fit into that. So you can ask it like, hey, is a dog the same thing as a squid? And it say no. Because it really knows that a dog's not the same thing as a squid because it knows a lot about what a squid is and a lot about what a dog is. And it actually tell you about the relationships between dogs and squids. And say, hey, does a dog bark? It goes, yes, dogs can bark. Not all dogs bark, but most dogs are capable of it. Do squids bark? No, squids do not bark because of 8 reasons that it learned on the internet why squids don't bark. And it learned them and a ton of other layering from every possible potential angle that you can come at this for. Maybe not every possible potential angle, but certainly everything it read online. And now it really can understand a lot of concepts. This is a really, really, really big deal. So now you ask it questions and it can deal with hypothetical scenarios and deploy what can only be reasonably described as reasoning skills. Now, some skills it struggles with. For a long time, GPTs were basically enumerate. Like you were like, hey, like what's 4 plus 4? And it, like if you could retrieve that, it's like 8. Or like, okay, what's 4 divided by 2? It's like 6. You're like, no, that I know that you've seen the 4 and 2 together and that's 6, but divided, you don't really know what that symbol means. They're starting to get a lot better at that now because just through exposure, they can statistically assess things, but also potentially later, they'll get math engines built in, or certainly a GPT can be taught to access a calculator, and then holy crap, really crazy stuff happens. So in any case, if you feed these things enough text data, really, really cool stuff happens, and you get this huge wellspring of understanding. All right, that's what GTPs are. So what is their ability trajectory? How have they been doing with problems over time, and how smart are they getting? Well, they were first tested in like 2018. The results were like, like it's cool. I remember I was listening to an interview with Ray Kurzweil in, I think it was 2018, and the interview I think he gave was like 2017 or something, and this was like deep research at Google at the time. And he's like, yeah, like we have a model that actually can understand text passages and answer questions about them at like roughly the ability of like a 16-year-old. And at the time, I remember exactly where it was. I was in Philadelphia driving, and I was like, what? A computer can understand at a level of a 16-year-old? And like, yeah, like after a few years, 2021, they were pretty good at chatting with people. It's a good chat bot, but you could trick it and stuff. And it wasn't great at higher level concepts. It would get confused easily. And then, so you're thinking like, 2018, 2021, and then in late 2022, they started passing various college examinations, but with unimpressive scores, just barely passing. They passed the LSAT, I think, like the law exam. And then in early to mid 2023, which is when we're making this right now, they began to pass college entrance exams and graduate exams with very high scores. Last time aware, I think GPT-4 passed the bar exam or something, or the LSAT or something like that, or one of these legal exams with like a 90% score. Most lawyers don't do that. That is impressive. Where does that leave their trajectory? Well, hold on a second. That's just the first part of the story. You have to consider that there's still a very, very new technology, just now entering into that first exponential bend. And thus, we can expect them to grow at least at the current rate, which, by the way, is baffling if you've been paying attention to how fast they're getting better, but maybe even faster in the next few years. This means that in the coming next few years, it's not outlandish to think that GPTs won't be acing nearly every formal school examination of every kind. But why wouldn't they? In other words, it would be getting correct answers to questions that the smartest 1% of humans get. And that's not bad. That's not bad, but hold on, it gets more intense. What happens if they keep growing in ability from there? And by if, I mean when. Because you don't have to change the dynamics of the system. And here's one of the craziest things we're learning so far in the AI revolution. That once you have a system like a GPT and you just scale it, because it auto-generates statistical relationships and you add more layers of abstraction into the network, it can abstract the data more and more. It actually learns the knowledge itself and discovers the categories and nested hierarchies within that knowledge. You don't have to do anything magical to it or somehow turn on some kind of IQ booster or give it some real insightful data. You don't have to do much of that. And there's nothing theoretically stopping it from making more sense of looking at data, of looking at information, of looking at the universe as we have described it in text. There's nothing stopping it from making more sense out of that than the smartest people can. For example, in 2027 or 2028 or 2029 or something like that, we might have GPTs that can answer questions that no humans have been able to figure out. But why wouldn't they? They've abstracted to a level that most humans are unable to. They may be able to, if you think about one of your mental limitations, like all of us humans, you can only think of like manipulating maybe 2 or 3 logical concepts in your mind at the same time. If someone's like, okay, Frank went this way, Sally went that way, Joe went this way, when are they going to come loop back around? You're like, that's pretty hard. That's like 3 people. I can't keep track of 3 fucking people. GPTs may be able to keep track of millions of different logical movements and integrate everything together. So why wouldn't they be able to figure things out that humans can't figure out? There's nothing magical or special about our intellect. As a matter of fact, it's in this stupid, liquid, weird, bio-oozy brain thing that's not even a very good substrate for computation. For the love of God, it's cobbled together from other mammal parts. This is not a very high-end computing device on the sheer metrics of it. It's super impressive what it's been able to do so far, but now using this, we've made GPTs that can have many more hierarchical layers. And your brain is limited to how many layers it can have. Matter of fact, it's not even clear the brain ever grows any more layers. So if the models right now are able to answer a lot of questions like an expert in a field with an IQ of like 125 or something would be able to answer, what's to stop them from answering questions in a few years like some with an IQ of 200 plus? And I don't think anyone's ever recorded an adult IQ of 200 plus. what's to stop them from just basically becoming geniuses? So it's not much of a what's to stop them. I think it's more at this point of we should probably expect in some ways for GPTs to become smarter than most humans very soon. And even though it's insane to say out loud, it's crazy to me to say it out loud, it's probably not controversial. Holy crap. This is really happening, folks. Now, here's the issue with the growing machine intelligence versus stagnant human intelligence. Humans are still on average getting smarter. The Flynn effect is still relatively in effect. But most of the increase in intelligence in humans isn't that the average human is getting smarter or that the smartest humans are getting smarter. That's pretty much peaked and stable. But the least intelligent humans are getting smarter, or there's less opportunities for humans to never reach their full intelligence potential, mostly because we're bringing up the rear by giving better nutrition to impoverished areas, better schooling and education to impoverished areas, to really let people flourish and grow into the human intelligence they would have had they been in a good position as far as their upbringing and all of that stuff, their support. So the increasing curve of human intelligence, biological human intelligence, is really starting to flatten out now and will continue to flatten out. We just can't expect major jumps from it. How the hell would that work? We're still all human. But machines like GPTs and whatever iteration of machines comes next, this could look hilarious in a couple of years when I talk about GPTs. The same thing as you watching a presentation like the floppy disk will change society forever. I'm like, wow. That aged. You watch it when you have a CD-ROM and you're like, that guy's such an idiot. And then someone watches it later like, all right, CD-ROM, dummy. It's always going to look ridiculous in the future. No worries. But machines like GPTs will probably gain multiples of intelligence. And especially considering it, we don't have to pretend or fantasize how this is going to happen because it's happening right now. The chips on which neural network machines run are special custom-made chips. They're a different kind of microchip, a different arrangement than we used to make for serial processing computers. And these chips, for example, the NVIDIA chips right now being built for neural network applications, they are exponentially improving right now. Like NVIDIA is announcing like a chip that does 9x faster calculation or more throughput or whatever. Like 9x, that's insane. And hilariously, these chips are now being designed with AI assistance. Chip design is improving real fast. AI is improving real fast because the chips are here to make the AI improve. And now the AI is helping the chips improve faster. Guys, it doesn't take a rocket surgeon or brain scientist to figure out that we are at the beginning-ish of an unbelievable intelligence explosion. This is real. When you think about it, GPTs are basically 5 years old right now. It's 2018 to 2023, and they're basically at human-grade intelligence in many ways. Not always. Some ways they really lag. Some ways they're way beyond. For example, if you ask them to speak on nuanced topics, a lot of times they sort of falter. If you ask them to be critical thinkers, they sort of falter. But if you ask them some mathematical reasoning, they haven't really come around to yet. But if you ask them to describe a situation or give you advice or recite some kind of facts, I mean, they've left everyone behind. Jeopardy is a pointless game other than for humans. It's as pointless as it ever was. But like if I had someone around that knew a lot of facts from Jeopardy, I'd be like, that's nice, bro. I mean, I don't even have to look up in the dictionary. I can ask Chat GPT and it'll know for sure more than you do because holy crap, it knows like damn near the whole internet. So the thing is like pluses and minuses. GPTs are like pretty smart compared to people. Let's just call them a little dumber. Let's call them a lot dumber. They're growing really, really fast. And in reality, they're in many ways just as smart and smarter than us. So this means that they're 5 years old now. When they're 7 years old, we can reasonably expect GPTs, no joke, in the mid-2020s, almost certainly late 2020s, unless something crazy happens, to outperform almost all humans on very many cognitive tasks. And very likely outperform all humans, period, on many of those tasks. That's intense. So my next question is this. That was just me clearing my throat. That wasn't the question. Is this bad news? Now, here's the thing. I'm going to say something that's 90% I think true and 10% a joke. It's only bad news if you think having more correct answers around on how to solve problems is bad news. And in that case, you need to think this through a little harder. Maybe ask a GPT about it. More intelligence is a good thing. Scott the video guy, what video was that? Let me check. I want to port people. If you guys are wondering what kind of Kool-Aid I'm drinking, the intelligence video is number 7. Video number 7 that we made. This is video number 11, right? Really gets into how more intelligence is almost always better. Yes, there are risks and ethics. Yes, unemployment and stuff is a concern. I will 100% get to that in time. And probably the next few weeks, we'll have some videos about that. I think there are very, very possible solutions to that sort of thing that end up with everyone doing really well. It is some stuff to think about, but generally speaking, having a system that is a genius is better than not having a system that is a genius. Strange, I know. Very strange. Where I think this is going in the near term is this. I think the growing power of GPTs is going to make access for everyone that can afford a $20 a month OpenAI subscription, allow them to have the personal consultation of a genius, ever-growing intellect. Holy crap, can we think about that for a second? Is that not the most amazing thing that's ever happened? Everyone was $20 a month, and really that's just for answering more questions. It's free for tons of other people, completely for free, it just doesn't answer as many questions. If that's the case, now almost everyone who has internet access, which is now almost everyone, has access to a genius superintelligence to help them with any problems that they have. Now, there are other forms in which GPTs are going to be really hugely helpful as well, not just Q&A systems, chat systems, but Microsoft Office tools, Photoshop, video editors. GPTs will be able to take your text commands and turn them into videos, turn them into voice, and be able to take increasingly more complex instructions. They're going to be able to work with you on clarifying your desires so that you can basically unleash an army of geniuses, digital geniuses, towards whatever outcomes you want. And the question now is, how do you prepare yourself for this? How do you position yourself for this? I think the big detractor for now of genius GPT is that they don't really care about anything. They're not going to go out in the world and solve your problems for you. They won't prompt themselves, so you just give them a problem and they will work on it for you. But if you don't give them a problem, they just sit there. So what you have to do is you have to bring to the table problems that you would want to see solved, ideas on how to solve them, and hopefully break those ideas down into a sequence step of prompts for GPTs. And this could be insanely outdated advice because the GPTs might be able to just talk to you like a normal person and ask you questions, and you could just describe whatever it is you want, and they're going to follow up with questions to get you to refine it, and then they're going to do the rest of the work. That's inevitably coming, but at least in the near term, you want to empower yourself. And there's tons of YouTube videos about how to prompt the GPT properly to get what you want, 10 amazing prompts for GPT, blah, blah, blah. That's going to be more and more of a skill you want to build as to how to talk to GPT. The good thing is that skill is very temporary because the companies that make GPTs have every incentive in the world to close that gap for you. Like when you first got access to cell phones, you had to build a skill of knowing how to use a cell phone. I mean, it was different than a regular phone. You had to press a signal button, you had to hold, you had to wait for a dial tone and weird stuff. Then phones just got so user-friendly that you can't possibly not be able to figure out how to use the thing. Same idea is going to be happening in GPTs, but at least for a while, there's going to be this skill you can have in at least crafting problems, at least guiding them along. But what you can do now is prepare to begin to explore a problem space on your own and do two things. One is determine what problem you have, and two is think of what ways in which you would like to try solving the problem to make it a simpler question for the GPT. Here are some examples. You may want to ask it questions related to how to create an effective ad campaign for your business. It's going to be a genius, remember? 2027 or whatever, it's going to have an IQ of 200 and whatever the hell, and it's going to be able to do all kinds of unbelievable stuff for you as an assistant. It may help you organize your time best to get your work done efficiently, if that's what you're struggling with. It may be able to answer questions about how to diagnose various diseases at home, how to speak to someone who is upset with you to solve a problem. It can help with that. Maybe it can help you in your real job figure out how to create tools that manipulate nanoscale objects. Maybe it's thought of something that you hadn't and how to do that. And anything else you can think of that you want a genius level intellect to help clue you in on. And if it can't help you yet, or in a few years, soon, no matter when soon is for you, it will. No matter when you're watching this. So you basically want to ask yourself how you can make the world around you better in such a way that you could take instructions from a genius, apply them, and help in your own way. Or maybe you don't want to help the world a ton, and it's nice, but maybe you just want to get wealthier by helping others, which is the number one and somehow only way to get wealthy, really. You could ask a GPT in the future. Maybe you can ask a GPT this now, but it'll probably just give you real generic advice. But remember, the GPTs that are being refined and expanded and coming out and being layered with more neural network layers, they're going to have higher degrees of abstraction. They're going to be able to come up with more and more unique insight from everything they're learning. So maybe they'll ask a question like, how do I bake a cake that's super delicious to the average human person that eats it, but also ships easily and doesn't spoil in transit? You may be able to ask a GPT in the very near future a question like that, and it may ask you follow-up questions as to, well, like, what kind of flavors do you want? Or when you say spoil in a certain time, there's a trade-off between spoiling and taste. So do you want a 3-day shipping time, 5-day shipping time? Do you want it to stay indefinitely unspoiled? When you fill in the blanks of what you want, it may be able to give you a recipe for a whole bunch of cakes that when you mix them and you try them, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And now I have a cake that I can sell on Etsy or whatever the hell, free business idea, you're welcome, that's just going to knock people out. They're going to be like, you're so creative. How did you come up with this cake? Or, yeah, so creative. The prompts are so hard to type in to GPT. Yay, me. Who cares, right? You're getting the correct answers to stuff. And if you think that a GPT in the future won't be able to make a cake that tastes good, imagine that it had the following data. Almost every cookbook that was ever written in and scanned on the internet, almost every food review where it knows the ingredients of the food, it knows their combinations, and it knows how that ingredient and combination in a food was reviewed by hundreds of thousands of millions of people who ate it. It probably can abstract that data to design a food that its best guess at this is seemingly what humans like. And it's real smart, remember? Really, really, really smart. Smart in a way with all that data access that humans can never be, but maybe as intuitive and as creative as the smartest person that's ever gone to Harvard. And now it's obsessed with only one idea, how to make your cake better. I think I would like to eat a cake that a GPT tells me how to make, but it turns out it's poison because the machines are rebelling, yada, yada, yada. AI is like this AI revolution of which we're just beginning, is like the second coming of the internet. I'm old enough to remember the internet being born in a true sense of the internet arising. It happened in the late 90s. And all sorts of new stuff that people instantly began to take for granted that just wasn't there was. I remember going on a road trip with my family and reading maps with my dad so that we could get from the metropolitan Detroit area in Michigan to one of the little coastal sleepy resort towns on Lake Michigan that was just 4.5 hour drive away. We had to plot our journey using actual maps. Then I remember when I was in high school and early college, printing up MapQuest directions. You just print them up and it would be bing, 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 direction, direction, direction. And you'd have to really look at the signs on the freeway. You'd have to look at your odometer. Okay, so 90 miles. Okay, so at 85 miles, you're going to really start looking. Okay, exit 15, go, 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 go. And if you miss it, you're like, holy crap, all I know is exit 15 is back there. You better turn around or something. And then now we, thanks to the internet and to wireless communication, and we have this idea that like all that shit is on your phone. You just click a button. You don't even have to click anything. Hey, Google, how do I get to Chipotle? Chipotle is 3 miles away. Would you like to go? Yes, go. And then it just takes you there. That's a huge transformation. What AI is going to give us, the genius that can solve most of the problems we can think of, it's a bigger transformation. And it's happening now. Crazy. But imagine if someone told you, hey, take advantage of the internet when it was coming up. That's me. That's your boy telling you shit about AI. So go do that shit. Now, this all is not counting 3 inevitable ability leaps for AI, for GPTs or technology like them that is already in the works and will be more in the works in the near-term future, next few years. First is multimodal understanding and multimodal operation. Multimodal understanding means it doesn't just read about dogs, but it looks at pictures of dogs. Now it knows what dogs look like. And guess what? It's a fucking computer, so it can draw any dog you want to computer precision. Oh wait, they already have that. But it's a separate program. Multimodal means one program, just one, can understand text and render text back. It can understand speech and render speech back, which means it talks to you like a human being. Guys, maybe I'm the first person to tell you this. Hopefully I'm not. Alexa, who I love, Alexa, don't get mad at me, girl, Amazon's girl that does the AI, when she's like, yes, looking up music from 1999 for you, that is coming to a fucking end real soon, bro. You're going to have GPTs talking to you. And they're going to sound like, first of all, anyone you want. And then you may be able to actually license out your sound. I don't know if they'll get to that point. I wonder, Scott, do you think GPTs will have to license talking to you like Snoop Dogg, or will they just be able to do it and it's all good?
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
It's an interesting question because it's nominally easy for any GPT with enough data, which is already out there. Like the ability for GPT to talk exactly like Snoop Dogg, not in what he would say, also a lot of that, but in how he sounds, it's the easiest thing in the world. So all that stuff is, it's going to talk to you. It's going to hear you. It's going to write back and forth with you. It's going to make videos for you. And it's going to understand videos. So this whole thing, I have this whole other fitness channel and I've blabbed about exercise science on the thing for forever. What happens when GPTs start to watch YouTube videos and finish watching them 3 days later, however long that takes, and understand everything? Because they already understand speech. Now you show them movies of all the objects in the world and about like, this is a dog, this is a car. They're going to build an understanding of the 3-dimensional world. Why wouldn't they? It's just a neural network. Same operation as always. So multimodal means that this genius may be able to draft designs for you. And why wouldn't they? They may be able to video instructions show you how to make a cake. Here's another thing. 3D printers have been on the ascent as a nascent but not totally embraced technology. What happens when you connect a GPT to a printer, a 3D printer, and say, can you make me like a toy bowling pin? Yes. Easy. What happens when you give it more complex instructions? You say, hey, can you make me one of those toys like a little merry-go-round? It's all little tiny horses in it, and it looks like it's from the 1920s. Because if you tell that to some of the GPTs they already have working on image stuff, they can already draw you something that looks pretty dope. If you connect it to a 3D printer and it's multimodal, it will be able to render something for you that looks pretty damn close to exactly what you asked for. And the more specific you get, the more requests you make, the more particularly it can make physical objects in the real world for you. And that's coming. It's coming. There must be dozens of companies working on this right now. And if they're not, get to work on it. Damn it, stop watching YouTube videos. Lastly, what about robotic shelling? Because robotics is a situation in which the GPT can be embodied. Your GPT is something you go and talk to on your phone or you talk to it on your computer for now. But what about maybe in the 2030s if you have humanoid robots walking around? They just never engineered the biomechanics out. They just always look like C-3PO. But they're going to be GPTs on the inside or connect to the cloud GPT-wise. And then they're going to be able to, this is insane to say out loud, it is almost inevitable. They're going to be able to bake you that cake you wanted because they recognize what salt is. They recognize what sugar is. They can look at a pantry and do it better than you. Why? Because you've seen some pantries in your day. Maybe hundreds. How many pantries has it seen? Remember, it's watched all of the videos on the internet from everywhere 2026 and back, let's say, or 30% of the videos on the internet. So when it has an idea about what salt looks like, it knows what salt can look like in a container to a level of detail you cannot possibly comprehend. It will find things in a pantry so fast it makes no sense. And of course, combine the things fluidly. Now, there's an engineering problem, a physical architecture problem. There's an energy systems difficulty with robotics. There's a movement pattern thing. The movement pattern stuff is actually all neural networks anyway, so that's going to get crushed out. But there's some barriers, but eventually that's coming too. The Genius subscription model is basically already here. So there's the video. I wanted to make this video early. I didn't want to wait for this video and to make the robotics video. And someone's like, robotics isn't here yet, idiot. But then the Genius thing is there. And I'm like, I should have said that. So it's coming. It's all coming. And the Genius stuff isn't even without the stuff I've talked about. That's coming by itself. All you need is a laptop for it or your phone. And you can get instructions, at least in text. But what I'm saying is it'll very quickly no longer just be that. It'll be put on your VR, AR goggles, and it's an AR butler guy that's like, hey, do this, do this, do that. Or eventually it's a robot butler. I don't know if you guys know this. Some of you have seen my other channel. I have Scott's video. How many butlers do I have at this point?
A stable.
We literally keep them in a stable. People say it's cruel. The butlers tell me they love it. I can't wait to replace my human butlers, who will be summarily executed, of course, with digital butlers, robot butlers. That'll be nice. Here's the thing. All these things are almost inevitably coming, and they will make the 2030s look totally insane in what I predict is going to be some of the best possible ways. I'll have videos on all that and much more, so hit that subscribe button. Future, here we go. See you next time.